You've arrived at CozySideAudio, where dreams begin with a story. Whether you're studying, journaling, or just chilling, this one's for you. If you vibe with this kind of content, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe for more.
CozySideAudio presents Iron Veins. Chapter 1. Ash and Iron. The city had a way of grinding you down. Iron on bone, ash in the lungs, steel underfoot, always vibrating with the hum of furnaces that never slept. People said the Undercity sang if you listened hard enough. To Kaelen Vane, it was more like screaming. He shifted against the wall of the crumbling hab block, one hand pressing against the cables that pulsed under his skin. The veins, his veins, weren't just blood and meat anymore. They were threaded with living wire, old grafts from a time when he'd been somebody. When crowds had howled his name and gamblers drowned each other in liquor betting on how long his opponents would last. The veins had made him strong, fast, a god in the cage. Now they were killing him. Every flex sent black fire tearing through his nerves. Every twitch made the metal bite deeper. The wires were corrupted, rotting inside him, turning his body into a slow-burning fuse. Kaelen spat, blood dark against the ash-caked street. The syndicate runners across the alley laughed, but not at him. They didn't even know he was there, shadowed in his corner. Two of them were arguing over who had to haul tonight's shipment to the foundry gates. Someone would get knifed before the deal was done. That was life in the veins. Everything for sale, even your pulse. Kaelen pushed himself upright and started walking. The runners never noticed him. Good, he wasn't in the mood. The markets were lit with oil burners and cracked neon, half the signs broken, the other half lies. Vendors shouted promises of clean water, hot food, quick stitches. Some offered vein metal shards straight out of the ash wastes, raw, unrefined, dangerous. Junkies lined up anyway, eyes twitching, desperate for their next graft. Kaelen moved through them like a shadow in a storm, shoulders brushing, boots heavy. Nobody met his eyes. Once they would have. Once men crossed the street when they saw him coming. Now he was just another relic rotting out in the open. He stopped at the edge of the plaza, body tight. Something was wrong. Screaming. Not the usual market screaming. This was high, sharp, panicked. Kaelen turned his head. A gang of syndicate wolves had cornered someone in the alley. A small figure. Too small. He cursed under his breath and told himself to keep walking. Not his business. He had enough ghosts without adding more. But his feet didn't listen. The girl was maybe 12, barefoot, clothes torn, face smudged with soot. She clutched a bundle to her chest, Kaelen couldn't see what, and the wolves circled like rats, knives flashing in the lamplight. "Hand it over, gutter rat," one of them snarled. "Don't make me cut it out of your arms." The girl didn't move, didn't cry, just glared at them, eyes too bright, too steady. Kaelen sighed. "Walk away," he said, voice rough as gravel. The wolves turned, sneers fading when they recognized him. "Vane," one muttered. "Didn't know you were still breathing." Kaelen stepped forward, hand brushing the length of pipe at his belt. His corrupted veins sparked under his skin, cables twitching like snakes. He ignored the pain. "I said walk," he repeated. The biggest wolf grinned, showing broken teeth. "You're half dead, old man. You ain't scaring anyone." Kaelen moved. The first swing shattered the wolf's jaw, sent him sprawling into the filth. Kaelen's veins screamed, but his body obeyed out of habit, muscle memory from 100 fights. The second wolf lunged, blade flashing. Kaelen twisted, slammed an elbow into his throat, felt cartilage crunch. The third hesitated. That was enough. Kaelen's pipe cracked across his skull, and he went down twitching. Silence. Kaelen stood over them, chest heaving, every nerve lit with fire. The veins under his skin pulsed black, wires writhing. He wanted to fall, but pride kept him upright. The girl was still there, clutching her bundle. "Go," Kaelen rasped. She shook her head. "They'll come back." Kaelen frowned. She wasn't wrong. "What's in the bundle?" She hesitated, then pulled it back just enough to show the contents. Blood, a vial, faintly glowing, wrapped in cloth. Kaelen's corrupted veins throbbed violently at the sight. For one insane second, he felt them pulling toward it, hungry, desperate. The girl hugged it tighter. "You can't have it." Kaelen stared at her. His breath felt heavy, his skin crawling. "What's your name?" he asked finally. She lifted her chin. "Mika." Kaelen closed his eyes, just for a moment. The city was screaming again, louder than ever. And he knew without a doubt that his life had just gotten a whole lot worse. Chapter 2. Living Wires. The market bled into night, and the night bled into smoke. The air tasted of burned oil and rust, every lamp throwing shadows like knives across the alleys. Kaelen walked with Mika at his side, her little feet silent on the cracked stone. She hadn't said a word since the alley, just clutched that vial like it was her soul in glass. "Keep up," Kaelen muttered. His veins twitched under his skin, pulling tight around his ribs. Every few steps his vision went sharp white, like lightning behind the eyes. He forced it down. Mika's voice finally cut the silence. "You didn't ask why they wanted it." Kaelen grunted. "Didn't need to. Everyone wants everything down here, doesn't matter what it is." She looked up at him, eyes glinting in the neon wash. "Even if it can save you." That hit harder than the pain. Kaelen stopped walking, hand tightening around the pipe at his belt. "Careful what you say, girl." "I saw the way your veins moved," she said, quiet but steady. "They pulled toward the blood, like they wanted it, like they knew it." Kaelen's jaw clenched. He wanted to tell her she was wrong. Wanted to tell her he was still in control, but the wires beneath his skin twitched again, alive, hungry. "Shut it," he muttered and kept walking. They reached Elira's hab on the edge of the rust fields. Half clinic, half junkyard, all trouble. Kaelen rapped on the steel door with the back of his fist. After a long minute, locks clattered and the door hissed open. Elira stood there, sleeves rolled, goggles perched on her forehead. Her eyes went wide at the sight of Mika. "Not another one," she muttered. "Kael, you can't keep dragging strays in here." Kaelen shoved Mika forward. "She's not a stray. She's something else. Take a look." "I don't do kids." Elira's voice was sharp, but her gaze lingered on the vial in Mika's arms. The glow reflected in her glasses. Her face tightened. "Where did you—" "Doesn't matter." Kaelen pushed past her into the cluttered clinic. Rusted vein metal grafts lay scattered across tables, stripped from corpses and addicts alike. The air smelled of alcohol and grease. Elira shut the door fast, locking it tight. "Kaelen," she whispered, voice edged with fear now. "If Corpo Forge catches wind of this—" "They already know," Kaelen said. "The wolves were on her tonight." Elira swore under her breath. Mika looked between them, arms tight around her bundle. "You can fix him, can't you?" she asked Elira. The doctor froze. Her eyes slid to Kaelen, then back to Mika. "No one fixes what he's got," Elira said finally. "Once the wires turn black, that's it. Only thing left is how long you can stay standing before they eat you alive." Mika shook her head, fierce. "You're wrong." Elira raised a brow. "And you'd know because—" Mika unwrapped the vial fully. The blood inside pulsed faintly, light ebbing like a heartbeat. Kaelen's veins throbbed in response, writhing under his skin. He hissed and grabbed at his arm, choking down a growl. Elira stepped back, her voice cracked. "Saints below, that's purification blood." Kaelen blinked. "The fuck's that supposed to mean?" "Prototype," Elira said quickly, words tumbling out. "They tried to grow kids whose blood could burn the corruption out of vein metal. Corpo Forge scrapped the project years ago. Too unstable, too costly. Everyone thought the test subjects were dead." Her eyes locked on Mika. "Guess not." The clinic's locks rattled. All three of them froze. Kaelen slid his pipe free, veins flaring with pain and power. Elira grabbed Mika and shoved her behind a table. The door banged once, twice, then tore inward in a spray of sparks. A man stepped through, tall, broad, clean, vein metal glowing faint blue under his skin. His veins moved smooth, perfect, none of the twitching rot Kaelen lived with. His face was older, scarred, but his eyes burned with the same fire Kaelen remembered from the cages. "Vane," Derek Solon said, his voice like a blade. "Didn't think you were still dragging your carcass around." Kaelen spat blood. "Solon, I was hoping you died ugly." Derek grinned. "Not yet, but maybe you can do me the favor." His eyes flicked to Mika. "After I take what's mine." Mika clutched the vial tighter. Kaelen stepped between them, pipe raised, veins screaming. Elira hissed, "Not here." but the fight was already coming. Chapter 3. Black Market Wolves. The clinic walls shook when Derek moved. His fist slammed into Kaelen's pipe, sparks spitting where metal veins collided. Kaelen staggered back, ribs screaming, corrupted wires tearing at his flesh from the inside. "Still swinging junk, Kael?" Derek sneered, pressing forward. His veins glowed cold and perfect, his body humming with controlled violence. "No wonder they call you a ghost." Kaelen spat blood and grinned a cracked grin. "Ghosts don't die easy." He swung wide, pipe whistling through the air. Derek blocked with his forearm. The impact sent Kaelen reeling, arms shaking with numb pain. The wires inside him writhed, hungry, as if trying to climb toward Derek's clean grafts. Elira ducked under a table, dragging Mika with her. "This is a clinic, you bastards. You'll bring the whole syndicate down on us." Derek ignored her. His eyes stayed locked on Kaelen, pupils sharp, almost joyful. "Been waiting for this," Derek said, voice low. "Years of listening to gutter folk whisper your name, like it still meant something. Now I get to carve out what's left." Kaelen's laugh rattled from deep in his chest. "Better men tried." Then Derek's fist broke his jaw. The world tilted sideways, blood hot in Kaelen's mouth. He stumbled, pipe slipping from numb fingers. His corrupted veins spasmed, jerking his body in short, violent twitches. Mika screamed, the sound cutting through the haze. Kaelen forced himself up, bone grinding. His vision swam, but his body knew how to fight even when the mind was gone. He lunged, caught Derek across the temple with a backhand. Not enough to drop him, but enough to remind him Kaelen still had teeth. Derek staggered, grin wiped clean. Stupid. Always stupid. Should have died back then. "You first," Kaelen rasped. Derek came again, faster this time. Their grafts clashed, sparks flying, the stink of burning metal and sweat filling the air. Kaelen felt his own veins tearing, unraveling inside him, but he clung to the violence. Each blow was agony, but agony was the only language his body understood anymore. Then Derek's hand closed around his throat, wires pulsing as they dug in. "You're done, Vane," Derek growled. His eyes flicked toward Mika, cowering in the corner. "The kid's the prize. You're just the warm-up." Kaelen thrashed, black fire shooting through his veins. His vision blurred, blood rushing in his ears. Then Mika's voice, fierce and sharp. "Let him go." The vial in her hands pulsed. Bright. Too bright. For a second, Derek froze. His grip slackened. Kaelen ripped free, smashing his forehead into Derek's nose. Bone cracked. Blood sprang. Derek roared, staggering back. Kaelen sucked in air like it was worth more than gold. His corrupted veins still burned. But some of the fire had dimmed, as if Mika's outburst had reached them, soothed them. "What the hell was that?" Derek snarled, wiping blood from his face. His eyes darted to Mika, then to the vial. Hunger flickered there. Elira slammed a lever on the wall. Metal shutters dropped with a clang, sealing half the clinic. Sparks rained as old circuitry overloaded. "Out, both of you! Now!" she shouted at Kaelen. "I can't hold him if he wants in." Kaelen grabbed Mika, dragging her towards the back door. Derek slammed into the half-fallen shutters, bending them inward, veins glowing hot. "Run all you want, Kael. I'll peel the brat from your bones when I find you." Kaelen didn't look back. He shoved Mika out into the night air, lungs burning with blood and fire. They stumbled through the alleys, neon burning overhead, market stalls shutting down in panic as word spread of the fight. Syndicate wolves were already gathering, drawn by blood, drawn by Derek's name. Mika clung to Kaelen's arm, her small body trembling. "He wanted me. He wanted the blood." Kaelen grunted. "Everyone's gonna want you now." He shoved her ahead, limping, veins twitching violently under his skin. The glow from her vial still burned faint against the night, like a heartbeat leading predators straight to them. They ducked into the sewer grates, the stench of rust and filth choking. Kaelen pressed his back to the damp wall, sucking air through clenched teeth. His body felt like broken glass, glued together with rust. Mika crouched beside him, eyes wide. "Why did you help me?" Kaelen laughed once, bitter. "Don't flatter yourself. I just hate Derek more." She didn't smile, didn't look away either. Kaelen leaned his head back, eyes closing. Above them the city roared, wolves gathering, wires singing. The hunt had begun. Chapter 4. The cult stirs. The sewer ran black with runoff and ash, the stink of burnt oil so thick it coated the tongue. Kaelen led Mika through the tunnels until the echoes of Derek's shouts faded. By the time they reached the old rail yard, his veins were screaming loud enough to drown thought. He slammed a fist against the rusted wall, riding out the spasm. His body jerked, cables twitching under the skin like worms. Mika stood back, clutching the vial, her face pale but steady. "You're dying," she said flatly. Kaelen barked a laugh, half choked. "Sharp girl, took you long enough." She didn't smile. "I could help." His veins writhed harder at her words, hungry. He leaned in close, eyes red, jaw clenched. "Don't make promises you don't understand." Before she could answer, the hatch above them screeched open. Elira dropped down, flashlight cutting through the dark. Her face was drawn tight, lips pressed in a hard line. "You've stirred the hive, Kael," she said. "Half the syndicate wants your head for crossing Soln. The other half wants the kid for what's in her blood. Corporal Forge will know by morning, and that's not the worst of it." Kaelen spat onto the rail. "Go on then, what's worse?" Elira hesitated. "The Wireborn are moving." Mika frowned. "Who are they?" Elira's mouth tightened. "Fanatics. They believe vein metal isn't just tech, it's divine. Flesh evolving into something greater. They carve themselves open to let the wires speak. Most bleed out. The ones who don't—" She shook her head. "The ones who don't are monsters." Mika shivered. "They'll come for her," Elira said, nodding at Mika. "They'll call her salvation. Sacrifice. Saint. Doesn't matter. Either way, they'll tear her apart to prove themselves right." Kaelen ground his teeth, veins pulsing black against his neck. "Then we kill them before they touch her." The first scream came an hour later. They'd holed up in an abandoned freight container, oil drums stacked for a barricade, Kaelen leaning against the door like a dying watchman. Mika had finally dozed off, vial clutched against her chest. The scream tore her awake. Kaelen's eyes snapped open. He grabbed the pipe, pushing himself upright with a groan. "Stay down," he growled. The door rattled. A wet scraping sound echoed outside, followed by chanting, low and broken, words smeared together. "Living wires. The child of purity. The flesh made clean." Elira swore, pulling a pistol from her coat. "Wireborn." The container wall shuddered. Something slammed into it from the outside, leaving a dent shaped like a hand, but the fingers were too long, too sharp. Kaelen pushed the door open. Shapes moved in the dark, half-naked figures with twisted grafts running wild across their skin. Wires stabbed out of their arms and backs like thorns, still raw, blood slick, eyes rolled white as they clawed the ground, whispering and moaning. One lifted his head, face split with metal growths, mouth hanging open. "The child," he croaked. "The saint of veins." Mika gasped. "They mean me." The cultists surged forward. Kaelen met them head-on, pipe-cracking skulls, veins flaring with agony. Every swing tore something inside him, but he didn't stop. Elira fired shots into the pack, dropping two, but the rest crawled over their bodies, shrieking prayers. One lunged at Mika. She screamed, holding up the vial. The glow pulsed brighter, and the cultist froze mid-lunge, body convulsing. His wires blackened in an instant, burning from the inside. He collapsed, twitching, smoke curling from his mouth. The others howled louder, dropping to their knees. "Miracle! Miracle!" Kaelen smashed another's head into the container wall. "Not a miracle," he growled. "A death sentence." The cultists dragged the bodies away, retreating as suddenly as they'd come, their chanting fading into the tunnels. The air stank of blood and burnt copper. Mika stood shaking, the vial dim again in her hands. "I didn't mean to—" Kaelen grabbed her shoulders, crouching low despite the pain twisting his body. His voice was harsh, eyes burning. "Listen to me. You show them that light, you'll never stop running. Not from Soln, not from Corporal Forge, not from them." He jerked his chin toward the bloodstain, where the cultist had died. Mika bit her lip, tears cutting tracks through the soot on her face. "But if it can save you—" "Not the point," Kaelen snapped. "You don't get it yet. Nothing down here saves anyone. It just makes the killing prettier." He let her go, veins spasming again. He staggered back to the wall, chest heaving. Elira reloaded in silence, Her eyes flicked to Mika, then to Kaelen. "She's not wrong, Kael," she said softly. "That blood could keep you alive. Maybe long enough to matter." Kaelen didn't answer. He closed his eyes, breathing shallow, listening to the distant hum of the city above. The cult's chant still echoed in his skull. Child of purity, flesh made clean. Chapter 5, Rust and Memories. Morning in the Undercity didn't look much different from night. The smoke turned the sun into a pale smear overhead, and the streets stayed lit with lamps burning cheap oil. The world smelled of rust, piss, and fried rat. Kaelen sat on the steps of the freight container, a cigarette burning low between his fingers. He didn't smoke often anymore, his veins made breathing hard enough. But this morning he needed something to cut through the taste of blood still lingering in his mouth. Mika sat cross-legged in front of him, fiddling with a bent nail she'd found in the dirt. She hadn't let go of the vial, not once, even while she slept. "You always look this miserable?" she asked finally. Kaelen barked a laugh. "Kid, this is me in a good mood." She tilted her head. "What's a bad one look like?" Kaelen exhaled smoke, watching it coil upward into the haze. "Bodies. Lots of them." The girl went quiet, but her eyes stayed fixed on him. Too sharp for her age. Kaelen looked away. Elira emerged from the container, dark circles under her eyes, a data slate in her hand. She'd been up all night scanning Kaelen's corrupted veins, mapping the rot like a cartographer charting a doomed coast. "You're not holding much longer," she said bluntly. "The corruption's eating you alive. Maybe a month. Maybe less." Kaelen shrugged. "Always knew I'd go out ugly." Mika glared at him. "Don't say that. Truth doesn't care what you like, girl." Elira shoved the slate into Kaelen's hands. "There's a chance," she said. "Not here. Out in the wastes." Kaelen scanned the readout. Not that it meant much to him, just wire maps and black patches where his graphs were rotting. The wastes? That's death twice over. Not if you know where to look. Elira tapped the slate. "There's a vein metal motherlode out there, not the refined crap the syndicates sling. Raw stuff, unprocessed, alive. Dangerous, but maybe pure enough to rewrite the corruption. And if anyone can harvest it..." She nodded at Mika. The girl straightened. "You mean I could fix him?" Elira's jaw clenched. "Maybe. Or maybe it'll kill you both. That blood of yours burns corruption. But it burns you too. You nearly collapsed last night, didn't you?" Mika looked down, said nothing. Kaelen crushed the cigarette under his boot. "Not happening. I'm not dragging a kid into the waste so I can maybe live a few weeks longer. That's not survival. That's suicide." Elira crossed her arms. "Then die in the gutter, Kael. Your choice, but don't pretend she isn't already in it with you. Soln, the Wireborn, Corporal Forge, they'll hunt her no matter what. At least this way, you stand a chance of fighting back." Kaelen's veins throbbed, black cords twisting under his skin. He wanted to argue, but the truth was already gnawing at him. Later, while Elira patched up supplies, Mika sat beside Kaelen on the steps again. She toyed with the nail, scratching lines into the rust. "You used to fight," she said. Not a question. Kaelen grunted. "What gave me away, the broken face?" "I heard them. The cultists. They called you champion." Kaelen stared out at the street, smoke drifting in the haze. "I was. Long time ago, syndicate cages, fights to the death most nights. I was the best they had." Mika leaned forward. "Did you like it?" His jaw tightened. He thought of the roar of the crowd, the spray of blood, the way the wires had sung inside him when he tore men apart. He thought of the silence afterward, the faces that never left his dreams. "No," he said finally. "But I didn't hate it either." "Would you do it again?" Kaelen looked at her then. Really looked. A skinny kid, dirt on her face, eyes too old, clutching a vial that everyone wanted to spill. "No," he said again, softer. "I don't fight for cages anymore." Mika studied him, then nodded like she believed him. The peace didn't last. A low chant drifted through the streets, faint but rising. Not the market calls, not syndicate barkers. A rhythm, steady and raw. Kaelen stood, pipe in hand. His veins throbbed. He knew the sound already. "Wireborn." Elira burst out of the container, pistol drawn. "They're moving faster than I thought. We can't stay." Kaelen scanned the street. Shadows gathered at the far end. Hunched figures crawling from the alleys, muttering prayers. Too many. He cursed under his breath. "Pack it. We're leaving." Mika's voice was small. "Where?" Kaelen tightened his grip on the pipe, jaw hard. "Somewhere they don't find us." Elira's hand rested on her bag. "The wastes, Kael. It's the only way." The chanting grew louder. The cult was closing in. Kaelen felt the wires under his skin twitch, pulling toward Mika again, hungry for her blood. He forced them down, teeth gritted. "Then we run," he said. Chapter 6: Steel Dogs. They moved at dawn. Smoke hung low across the rail yard, and the streets of the Undercity were already waking. Hawkers peddling counterfeit chips, gangs marking walls with blood, dogs made more of wire than fur fighting over scraps. Kaelen kept Mika close, pipe resting against his shoulder, eyes burning. Every corner felt wrong. Every shadow carried a whisper of the cult's chant. "Where exactly are we going?" Mika asked, jogging to keep up. "Out," Kaelen said. "Away." "Not very specific." He shot her a look. "Specifics get you dead." Elira snorted. "Or lost." She tugged her coat tighter, pistol hidden in the folds. "I'm leading. You're following." Kaelen didn't argue. His veins were already screaming, black cords pulsing in his arms. He saved his breath for staying upright. They cut through the husk of an old shipyard, cranes rusted to skeletons, cargo crates stacked like tombs. The place stank of salt and old oil. And there, waiting in the open, was Derek. He stood alone in the cracked concrete yard, his bulk wrapped in plated graphs that gleamed like forged steel. His veins pulsed bright silver beneath his skin, steady and strong. He looked like Kaelen once had, before the rot, before the slow decay. Mika froze. "He's a steel dog," Kaelen muttered. "Solon's favorite." Derek's voice carried like thunder. "Kael, you should have stayed dead." Kaelen's grip tightened on the pipe. "Funny, I was thinking the same about you." Derek didn't waste more words. He charged, the ground cracking under his steps. Kaelen barely had time to brace. The pipe met Derek's fist with a shockwave that rattled the crates, metal screaming against metal. Kaelen staggered back, arms numb, veins spasming. Derek didn't even flinch. "Pathetic," Derek growled. The cage champion reduced to a corpse with wires. Kaelen spat blood, grinning through it. "Still ugly as ever, though." He swung low, pipe smashing into Derek's knee. Sparks flew, but Derek only snarled and slammed an elbow into Kaelen's ribs. Bone cracked. Kaelen hit the ground hard, his vision blurred, his veins writhed like they wanted to tear free. "Get up," Derek barked. "Show her what a false idol looks like." He pointed at Mika. "She needs to see." Mika cried out. "Stop it, you'll kill him." "That's the idea," Derek said, striding forward. Kaelen dragged himself up, every nerve screaming. He could feel Mika's blood in the air, the pull of it, the way his corruption wanted it. The hunger nearly dropped him to his knees. But he forced a laugh instead. "You think she needs me to show her what ugly looks like? She's looking at you." Derek roared and swung. Kaelen ducked, too slow. The fist grazed his jaw, and the world went white. He staggered, vision swimming. Desperation drove him. He jammed the pipe upward, straight into the seam of Derek's plated graft. Metal bent. Derek snarled in pain, shoving Kaelen back. For the first time, Kaelen saw blood. They circled, both panting, both bleeding. Mika clutched the vial, trembling. Elira whispered to her, "Don't interfere. If you give him your blood now, he's lost forever. This fight decides who he is." Mika's eyes filled with tears. "He'll die. Maybe. Or maybe he proves he's more than the rot." Derek lunged again. Kaelen sidestepped, pipe flashing, smashing Derek's temple. The bigger man reeled. Kaelen struck again and again, every swing tearing his own body apart. The veins screamed. His chest felt like it was splitting, but he kept swinging, kept laughing through the blood. "Come on then, dog," Kaelen roared. "Show me what Solon's scraps are worth." The final blow snapped the pipe in two. Derek staggered, dropped to one knee, blood dripping from his temple. Kaelen collapsed opposite him, barely able to breathe, both men on the ground, both broken. Derek spat, smiling through his own blood. "Not bad, corpse. Not bad, but you're fading. I'll finish you when you can't crawl anymore." He pushed himself upright, staggering toward the shadows. "Enjoy the hours you've got left." And then he was gone. The silence was worse than the fight. Mika rushed to Kaelen's side. "You're bleeding everywhere." "Nothing new," Kaelen muttered, coughing red. Her hands shook as she tried to lift him. "You'll die if you don't let me help." He grabbed her wrist, eyes wild, veins writhing. "No!" She froze. His grip loosened. His voice dropped, ragged. "Not like this, not in front of him. I'll die on my own terms. You hear me?" Mika's lips trembled. She nodded. Elira crouched beside them, face grim. "The wastes. Now. You won't survive another fight like that." Kaelen let his head fall back against the rusted ground, eyes half closed. "Good thing we're not planning to fight." But even as he said it, the cult's chant drifted again on the wind. "Child of purity. Flesh made clean." Chapter 7. Ash Roads. The city ended not with a gate, but a scar. A jagged trench carved across the land, filled with decades of burnt-out husks. Trucks, trains, even war machines left to rust where they fell. The air shimmered with heat, though the sun hadn't even climbed to noon. Beyond the trench stretched the wastes, ashen flats that rippled like a sea, broken by black spires jutting from the earth like the bones of giants. Kaelen stood at the edge, pipes snapped and useless, ribs bound tight under Elira's makeshift wrappings. His veins pulsed hot, thrumming like a fever. Mika stepped up beside him, clutching her little bag and the vial. Her eyes were wide, not with fear, but something like wonder. "It looks alive," she whispered. "It is," Elira muttered. "And it doesn't like strangers." They climbed down into the trench. The husks of machines were hollowed out, picked clean long ago by scavengers, but signs of life lingered, chalk sigils smeared on metal, melted candles in rusted corners. Kaelen frowned. Wireborn. As if summoned by the word, a whisper carried through the trench, the same chant, faint but steady. "Child of purity, flesh made clean." Mika stiffened. "They're following us." "They're hunting us," Kaelen corrected. He gripped the broken pipe tighter, wishing it still held weight. His veins twitched at the sound, hungry for release. Elira hissed, "Keep moving." The ambush came fast. Figures crawled from the husks, half naked, skin carved with circuitry scars, wires wrapped around their throats like rosaries. Their eyes burned with feverish devotion. One leapt at Mika. Kaelen moved without thought, slamming the jagged end of the pipe through the man's shoulder. Black blood sprayed. Kaelen shoved him off, ribs flaring with pain. "Mika, run!" The girl darted between rusted engines, clutching the vial to her chest. Elira fired short, sharp bursts from her pistol, each shot cracking like thunder in the enclosed trench. 2 cultists dropped, but more poured in, chanting louder, tearing at their own flesh as they surged forward. Kaelen fought like a cornered beast. Each swing of the broken pipe felt slower, heavier. His veins writhed, dragging him toward Mika, begging for her blood. He snarled, forcing it down, forcing himself to stay standing. One cultist caught him across the jaw with a rusted blade. Pain split white through his skull. He spat blood and laughter. "That all you've got?" Mika didn't run far. She crouched in the shadow of a shattered freight engine, watching Kaelen bleed. Her chest ached. Every instinct screamed to run to him, to spill just a drop, to give him strength. But Elira's words echoed, "If you give him your blood now, he's lost forever." So she clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms, and stayed hidden. Until she saw the wire-born priest. He was different, taller, skin flayed open across his chest, a nest of wires coiled where his heart should be. His mouth opened in a wet smile as he spotted her. "There," he crooned. "The vessel, the child." He raised a hooked hand, and the cultist turned toward Mika. Kaelen saw it. Rage boiled through his veins, hotter than the corruption. His body screamed as he threw himself forward, pipe raised, smashing through the cultists in his path. He hit the priest like a storm. The pipe drove through the wire heart with a shriek of tearing metal. The priest spasmed, shrieking prayers as sparks burst from his chest. Kaelen tore the pipe free, chest heaving, eyes wild. The other cultists faltered, their chant breaking into cries. Some fled, others collapsed, twitching like their strings had been cut. Mika stared at him, wide-eyed. He looked more monster than man, veins black and writhing, eyes bloodshot, face painted with blood not his own. For a moment, she didn't recognize him. Then he dropped to one knee, coughing, barely holding himself together. They scrambled out of the trench hours later, bodies aching, air thick with the stink of burnt blood. The waste stretched endless before them, flat and gray, broken only by those black spires jutting skyward like nails through the skin of the world. Heat shimmered, but the wind was cold, carrying a low moan that never stopped. Mika clung to Kaelen's arm. He staggered, half-conscious, but still moving. Elira scanned the horizon, jaw tight. We've made it past the city's leash. But out here is worse. Kaelen spat blood into the dust, grinning through broken teeth. Good, I'd hate for it to be easy. Mika stared into the horizon. Something moved out there, huge shapes sliding under the ash, circling. Her grip tightened on the vial. For the first time she whispered almost to herself, "We shouldn't have come here." Chapter 8. Ash Beasts. The wastes had no horizon. The sky bled white, the earth gray, until Kaelen couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Hours bled into hours, each step dragging like chains. The ash was soft, like walking on sifted bone. It got into everything. Mouth, eyes, lungs. Mika's coughing grew sharp and constant. Elira tore strips from her coat, fashioning crude masks. Breathe through the cloth. Keeps the worst of it out. Kaelen didn't bother. The air was poison anyway. His veins already burned black under his skin, twitching like worms. Mika stared at him as they walked. His outline seemed wrong in the wavering heat. Larger, heavier, as if the corruption were reshaping him with each step. She bit her lip and said nothing. By midday, the ground started to hum. At first, Kaelen thought it was his pulse, the throb of blood in his ears. But then Mika felt it too, dropping to her knees, palm pressed to the ash. The vibration crawled through her bones. "What is that?" she whispered. Elira froze, hand going to her pistol. "Keep still." The ash shifted, slowly, deliberately, like a sea drawing breath. And then something broke the surface. It was the size of a freight hauler. A carcass of black iron wrapped in pale leathery hide, half sunk into the ash, like it had been sleeping there for centuries. Its skull was a cage of fused rebar, jaw yawning open to reveal rows of rusted blades instead of teeth. Kaelen swore under his breath. Ash beast. The creature dragged itself fully from the ground, long jointed limbs stabbing into the earth, pulling its bulk forward with a screech of bending metal. Its eyes glowed faintly beneath the caged skull, molten and hateful. Mika screamed as another beast surfaced behind them. And another. The ash was alive with movement, titans stirring from their burial beds. "We run," Elira snapped. They ran. The ash dragged at their feet, sucking them down. Mika stumbled, Kaelen hauling her up with one arm even as his ribs screamed. Behind them, the beasts howled. An unearthly noise, part horn, part metal tearing. One lunged, its bladed jaws snapping shut where Mika had been seconds earlier. Kaelen spun, pipe in hand, and slammed it into the creature's eye slit. The impact jarred his whole body. The beast barely flinched, only shrieked louder, rearing back. "Keep moving," Elira shouted, firing into its maw. The bullets sparked uselessly off iron bone. The ground split open. A fissure yawned beneath them, wide and sudden, spilling fire-bright ash into the sky. They skidded to a halt at the edge. Across the gap, the waste stretched on, endless. Mika's breath hitched. "We're trapped." Kaelen looked back at the beast closing in. Something inside him uncoiled. A dark rush that made his vision pulse black. His veins writhed with hunger, reaching for the titans as if recognizing kin. He grinned, teeth red with blood. Not trapped. Fed. Before Elira could stop him, Kaelen leapt. He met the nearest beast head-on, pipe driving down into the glowing seam of its skull. The creature shrieked, thrashing, ash erupting in geysers. Kaelen clung to it like a parasite, his veins latching to the iron hide, drinking the molten heat spilling from the wound. The pain was electric. His body shook as if every nerve was on fire. but with it came strength. Too much strength. He roared, ripping the pipe free, stabbing again, until the beast collapsed, half its skull torn away. Mika watched in horror. He wasn't just fighting. He was feeding. His veins had burrowed into the carcass, black cords pulsing as they drank. "Kaelen, stop!" she cried. He didn't. He couldn't. The second beast lunged. Elira pulled Mika back as it crashed down where Kaelen stood, jaws wide. Kaelen tore himself free of the first carcass, veins dripping molten black, and met the second with a scream. He slammed the pipe into its mouth, forcing it open, veins wrapping its head like chains. With a final heave, he ripped the jaw clean off. The titan fell, writhing, blood steaming in the ash. Kaelen stood atop it, chest heaving, covered in fire and gore. His veins glowed black-red, pulsing like a second heartbeat. For a moment, he looked invincible. For a moment, he looked inhuman. Silence. The other beasts sank back beneath the ash, cowed by the slaughter. Kaelen staggered, the strength draining as quickly as it had come. His veins writhed violently, tearing at his flesh from within. He collapsed to his knees, coughing black. Mika rushed to him. She reached for the vial, hands trembling. "Don't!" he gasped, grabbing her wrist. His eyes were wild, burning. "Not yet. Don't let me drown in it." Her tears streaked the ash from her face. "You'll die. Then I die." His grip shook. "But I die me. Not that." They dragged him away from the carcasses before the scavenger flocks descended. As night fell, the horizon glowed faintly, not with fire, but with the ruins of something vast, towers leaning like broken teeth, half swallowed by ash. Elira pointed. "Sanctuary, or its corpse. Either way, we rest there." Mika didn't answer. She watched Kaelen shiver in the dark, veins writhing like snakes beneath his skin. He looked like he belonged to the wastes now. And for the first time she wondered if bringing him here had already damned him. Chapter 9. The Bone Choir. The ruins rose from the ash like broken teeth. Spired towers leaned drunkenly against each other, their faces eaten by centuries of wind. Shattered glass glittered in the moonlight, scattered across the ash like stars brought low. For the first time since entering the wastes, there was silence. Not the hum of hidden titans, not the whisper of shifting ash. Just stillness. Elira kept her pistol drawn anyway. Places like this don't stay empty. Kaelen barely heard her. His body dragged at him, veins twitching with restless hunger. Every step sent black fire through his bones. Mika supported his arm, her own frame trembling from exhaustion. But she didn't let go. They crossed the threshold of a toppled gate, and then the sound came. Low, hollow, like 100 voices humming through bone. The Bone Choir. The first of them appeared in the shadows, figures cloaked in ash-stained cloth, ribs painted white across their chests. Their faces were hidden behind masks, carved from the skulls of beasts, teeth filed sharp. They didn't move like hunters. They moved like supplicants, arms spread wide, humming the same eerie note. Mika clutched Kaelen tighter. "Kael!" He straightened, pipe dragging in the ash. "Stay behind me." One masked figure stepped forward, raising a lantern of bone filled with flickering blue flame. The humming ceased. A woman's voice spoke, muffled by the skull mask. "You've crossed the ash roads. You've spilled the blood of titans. You are not strangers. You are chosen." Elira muttered under her breath. Cult. Always a cult. They were taken deeper into the ruins. At the heart of the shattered towers, they found a hall transformed into a cathedral. Ribs of titans were mounted into archways. The floor was carved with spirals that led inward to a pit glowing faintly with molten ash. And lining the walls were instruments, flutes, harps, even drums, each fashioned from polished bone, strung with wire veins. The choir gathered there, dozens of them, masks gleaming white in the firelight. The humming rose again, vibrating through Kaelen's teeth until it felt like his own bones might crack. The masked woman set her lantern at the pit's edge. "Welcome, blood-marked ones. Here you will rest. Here you will hear the song that binds the wastes." Mika stared around, heart hammering. They live here, among this. Elira's jaw tightened. No, they worship it. Food was brought, bowls of thick gray broth, meat that gleamed oily and strange. Mika didn't touch hers. Kaelen forced down a mouthful, veins thrumming louder with each swallow. The choir sang as they ate, a slow, pulsing chant that shifted between harmony and shriek. It wasn't words, it was resonance, a vibration that wormed into marrow. Kaelen slammed the bowl down, hands shaking. "What the hell is this?" The woman unmasked herself. Her face was pale, her eyes rimmed black, but her skin glowed faintly, as if lit from within by ashlight. "It is the marrow of the wastes. To eat is to live. To sing is to endure. We do not fight the corruption. We are its choir." Her gaze fixed on Mika. "And you, child, you are its key." The choir pressed closer, their song rising. Mika's pulse raced, the vial burning cold against her chest. "What do you mean?" The woman knelt before her. "We have waited generations for one like you. The wastes are not disease, they are awakening. You carry the seed of its voice, give it to us, and the choir will sing the world clean." Kaelen staggered to his feet, pipe raised. "You're not touching her." The woman smiled faintly. "And you already belong to us." Her eyes dropped to his veins, writhing visibly under his skin. The choir hummed louder, the sound vibrating in Kaelen's chest. His body responded like a tuning fork, veins straining, black heat spilling into his throat. He doubled over, coughing blood. Mika dropped beside him, panic rising. "Stop it! You're killing him!" "No," the woman whispered. "We're calling him home." Elira acted fast. She drew her pistol and fired into the ceiling. The cracks splitting the chant. Dust rained down. "Enough of this." She grabbed Kaelen, hauling him up by sheer strength. "We're leaving." The choir closed ranks. Dozens of masked faces, dozens of bone instruments raised like weapons. The woman's voice cut through. "You will not leave the song. Once heard, it binds. Once sung, it devours." The choir's humming surged into a scream, and the bone instruments played themselves, strings vibrating, flutes keening, drums booming without hands. The sound was unbearable. Pressure, madness, a tide of resonance that bent the air. Kaelen roared, black veins bursting across his skin. His voice joined the choir, unwilling, uncontrollable. His scream harmonized with theirs until it was no longer his own. Mika covered her ears, sobbing, "Kaelen, fight it, please, fight!" And for a flicker of a moment, he did. His veins stuttered, his voice cracked. He fell silent, collapsing in her arms. The choir hushed. The woman studied him with pity or hunger. "He cannot fight us long, and you bring him closer to his truth with every step. When he finally breaks, he will not be man or beast, he will be choir." Mika clutched him tighter. "Then we'll burn your song before that happens." The woman only smiled. "The song does not burn. The song consumes." They fled into the ruins before dawn, Kaelen half carried between Mika and Elira. Behind them, the choir's humming rose again, swelling through the bones of the towers, rolling across the ash like thunder. Mika glanced back once. The sight burned itself into her. Dozens of masked faces lifted to the gray sky. Bone flutes shrieking, drums of rib and skin pounding like war hearts. A hymn for the end of the world. Chapter 10. Ash Fever. The fever hit Kaelen like a hammer. One moment he was staggering across the ruins, leaning heavy on Mika's shoulder, and the next he was on the ground, his vision a storm of black veins and white fire. His skin boiled, his breath rattled. The ash clung to him, as if it wanted him buried then and there. "Kael!" Mika's voice cracked, desperate. She dropped to her knees, trying to lift him, but he was too heavy. His body convulsed, back arching against the stone. Elira knelt opposite her, jaw clenched, hands moving fast as she checked his pulse, pried his mouth open, felt the heat pulsing under his skin. "He's burning out. The veins are running wild." Mika fumbled for the vial. "Then I'll use it now." "No!" Elira's hand shot out, catching her wrist hard. "Not yet. If you waste it when he's in this state, it'll kill him. Or worse." Mika's eyes filled with tears. "He's already dying." Elira didn't answer. She just tightened her grip and stared at Kaelen's twitching form. Kaelen wasn't with them anymore. He was standing in the choir's cathedral again, ribs rising around him, the pit glowing like a second sun. But it wasn't empty. Derek Soln stood across the spiral floor, pipe slung casually over his shoulder, a smile like broken glass on his lips. "You always were slower than me," Derek said, "always weaker. I sang before you ever learned to crawl." Kaelen spat blood that wasn't there. Get out of my skull. But Derek only grinned wider. His veins flared blue, perfect, alive. You can't shut me out. You are me. You're just the failed draft they left rotting in the cage. I'm the version they kept. The choir's humming started up again, low and steady. The pit's glow flared. From its depths rose shapes, vein-wrapped beasts, ash-drowned faces, bodies bent into instruments. Their voices joined Derek's one by one until the song pressed Kaelen to his knees. Sing, Derek whispered. Sing, and the pain stops. Sing, and the hunger feeds. Sing, and you'll never be alone again. Kaelen's veins writhed, his throat tearing open with sound. A scream, or a hymn. Outside the dream, his body convulsed harder. His veins pushed against his skin, writhing visibly, black lines crawling across his face. Mika sobbed, holding his hand. Fight it, Kael. Please, don't listen to them. His eyes snapped open, glowing faint ash white. Mika, he rasped. The words sounded like two voices speaking at once. Mika, it hurts. Her grip tightened. I'm here. I'm not leaving. For a moment, his face softened, human again, but then the veins surged, twisting his mouth into a snarl. He lunged upward, grip like iron around her arm. Mika, Elira shouted, yanking her back. She jammed a scalpel into Kaelen's shoulder, shallow but sharp. He roared, jerking away, black blood spraying. He collapsed again, gasping. Inside the fever, Kaelen staggered toward the pit. Derek was beside him, hand resting on his shoulder like a brother's. Look at her, Derek said, pointing across the hall. Mika stood at the far end, the vial glowing in her hands, but she was fading, skin turning gray, eyes hollow. She's just bait. They built her for you, for me, for all of us. She's no savior, just another chain. Kaelen shook his head, but his steps carried him closer to the pit. Derek leaned in, voice a hiss. If you drink her blood, you'll be free. No more pain, no more chains, just power. Enough to break the world open and never bleed again. Kaelen stopped at the pit's edge, ash heat searing his skin. His veins screamed. And then he heard another sound. Mika's voice, small, cracking, but real. You're not a monster, Kael. You're not theirs. You're mine. The choir's song wavered. Derek's smile flickered. Kaelen's grip tightened on his pipe. He woke with a shuddering gasp, ash clogging his throat. Mika was still holding his hand, tears streaking her face. Elira crouched nearby, knife ready. He looked between them. His veins still throbbed, black and furious, but his eyes were his own again. I didn't give in. His voice was broken, but steady. Mika pressed her forehead against his hand. I knew you wouldn't. Elira exhaled, finally lowering the blade. Saints damn you both. He's holding on by threads, Mika. If he breaks again, there won't be enough left to pull back. Kaelen coughed, spat black blood into the ash, and forced a smile through cracked lips. Then we better make the threads hold. That night they sheltered in the ruins, fireless, the choir's distant humming vibrating in the stone. Mika refused to sleep. Elira kept watch, pistol across her lap. Kaelen lay between them, trembling, every breath shallow. In the dark, Mika whispered to him, I won't let them take you. I promise. Kaelen's cracked laugh was almost a sob. You're a terrible liar. But he held her hand until sleep finally dragged him under again. Chapter 11, Hollow March. The black spine rose on the horizon like a jagged tooth. Even at a distance, it dwarfed the world around it. A mountain split open, its heart exposed, rib-like towers jutting skyward. The air shimmered around it, heavy with static. The choir's song carried stronger there, threading through the bones of the land. Mika stared at it until her eyes blurred. She thought it would feel like hope, finally seeing their destination. Instead, it felt like standing before a grave. Closer than it looks, Elira muttered, squinting through ash goggles, but it'll feel like forever. Kaelen dragged his feet behind them, leaning on a rusted spear Elira had scavenged for him. His face was gray, lips cracked, veins pulsing hot black across his neck. Every step seemed to cost him, but he forced a grin when Mika glanced back. Quit looking at me like I'm already buried, he rasped. They walked and walked. The wastes stretched endless, every rise of ash hill, revealing only more. Their boots sank, gritty powder swallowing sound. The wind carried whispers, half-words of the song, never silent, never kind. By nightfall, the choir's hunters came. Mika spotted them first, pale figures cresting the ridge behind, moving in jerks too fast to be human. Wire-borne zealots, their skin stretched tight, mouths open in silent hymns. They carried hooked spears, dragging them through the ash like plows. Elira swore under her breath, "They'll hound us until we drop." Kaelen spat blood. "Then we don't drop." They ran. The chase lasted days. Each dawn brought more zealots, their ranks swelling. The trio snatched rest in ruins when they could, scavenging scraps, half-burnt rations, mold water sucked from stone cracks. Kaelen ate almost nothing, his body rejecting food with violent spasms. The veins inside him wanted only one thing: Mika. At night when she slept against him, he felt the pulse in her wrist like a drumbeat under his teeth. He turned his face away, biting his own hand until it bled just to keep from taking hers. Elira noticed. She said nothing, but her pistol never left her lap. On the fourth night, the zealots caught them. The ruins of an old signal tower rose from the ash, skeletal steel bent at mad angles. They climbed it, hoping height might buy a moment's reprieve. From the top, they saw the zealots swarming below, dozens now, pale and tireless, circling like sharks. Mika clutched Kaelen's arm. His skin burned like a furnace. His eyes flicked down at the swarm, then back to her. "We can't keep running." She shook her head violently. "Don't say that." Elira chambered her pistol, teeth bared. "He's right. They'll bleed us dry out here. We have to break them." Mika's voice cracked. "How? There's too many." Kaelen grinned, though his lips trembled. "Let me off the leash." Elira froze. "No, you lose yourself out here. There won't be enough left to carry forward." Kaelen's veins throbbed, black lightning under his skin. "Then you better drag what's left." The zealots began to climb. Hands and feet tore into steel, bodies rising like a tide. The tower groaned under their weight. Kaelen stepped forward, pipe gripped in white-knuckled hands. Mika grabbed him, terrified. "Kael, you'll—" He pressed his forehead to hers, voice low. "If I fall, don't waste that vial on me. Run. Promise me." She shook her head, sobbing. "I won't promise." He smiled anyway, kissed her hair, and turned to the swarm. Then he let go. His veins ignited. Black fire raced across his skin, flaring through his eyes, his teeth bared in a snarl that shook the tower. The zealots screamed, not with fear but ecstasy. "Sing!" they howled. "Sing with us!" Kaelen roared, and the ash answered. His corrupted blood spilled into the ground below, veins crawling across the steel, bursting like roots. The zealots that touched it convulsed, shrieking as their bodies twisted, bursting apart in sprays of black mist. The tower shuddered under the carnage. Elira fired shot after shot into the horde, picking off those Kaelen couldn't reach. Mika clung to the steel, praying, whispering his name over and over like a tether. Kaelen tore through them until the last zealot dropped, twitching into the ash. Then the fire guttered. His body sagged, veins dimming, leaving only a wrecked husk of a man, barely holding the pipe upright. He dropped to his knees. When dawn came, the tower stood alone in a field of silence, the zealots' bodies already sinking into the ash as if the waste were devouring them. Mika sat with Kaelen's head in her lap, wiping blood from his mouth with trembling hands. He was alive, but only barely. Elira crouched nearby, watching the horizon. The black spine loomed closer now, its rib towers spearing the sky. "They'll throw worse at us," she said quietly. "The closer we get, the harder it'll be." Mika brushed Kaelen's hair back, whispering, "Then let them come." But her eyes betrayed her. She didn't know if Kaelen would survive another day like this. Chapter 12, The Spine. The black spine was no mountain. It was a wound, a rib cage of stone split open, jagged towers thrust toward the sky, the air humming like a living throat. Veins of black fire crawled through the rock, pulsing to the rhythm of the choir's song. Each beat pressed into Kaelen's skull, each echo dragging him closer to the pit. Mika clutched his arm as they stood at the spine's base, staring up at the climb that would end them. "We're so close." Her voice shook, not with fear but with awe. Kaelen's lips cracked into a half smile, close enough to choke on it. Elira spat into the ash, pistol raised, eyes scanning the ridges. They know we're here, the air's crawling. And it was. The song was louder now, words clear enough to make Mika flinch. Fragments of old tongues, syllables twisting like knives. Kaelen's veins pulsed in rhythm, every beat like a chain pulling him forward. The climb began at dawn. The spine stone was sharp, biting into palms and boots. Veins of black heat ran beneath the rock, searing if touched too long. Ash storms coiled around the ridges, blinding, suffocating. Every few steps Kaelen stumbled, his grip slick with blood. Mika never let go. When he fell, she pulled him. When he faltered, she whispered his name until he kept moving. Her own body shook with exhaustion, but her will burned like a beacon. Elira led them upward, efficient, merciless. She didn't look back often. When she did, her eyes softened for only a heartbeat before she steeled again. By midday, the choir struck. Figures emerged from the rock itself, zealots, bone-wrapped and vein-lit. Their bodies bent at impossible angles. Their mouths poured hymns that cracked the air. Elira fired without hesitation. Shots echoed, bodies tumbled down the spine, but more climbed. Kaelen fought with his pipe, every swing tearing his muscles raw. The veins inside him screamed for release, begged him to open and let them spill. Mika's voice tethered him. Hold, don't give them everything. Still, black fire bled from him, searing through zealots in bursts that left his body weaker each time. The climb turned into a war. Hours passed, the zealots kept coming. The higher they climbed, the more the song deepened, until it wasn't just sound but touch. Pressing fingers against Kaelen's chest, Mika's skull, Elira's bones. Mika collapsed once, knees hitting stone. Kaelen dropped beside her, dragging her up despite his own ruin. "No resting," he croaked. "Not here." She nodded, tears streaking ash from her face. "Not here." Elira dragged them both onward, fury carrying her steps. "Almost there. Keep your eyes forward." At last, near dusk, they crested a jagged ridge, and the heart came into view. At the center of the spine yawned a hollow cavern, ribbed with stone and vein fire. From its depths poured the song, so loud Mika clapped her hands over her ears, sobbing. Kaelen swayed on his feet, veins glowing like molten chains under his skin. Inside, suspended above the abyss, hung a heart. Not stone, not flesh, something between. It pulsed with black light, each beat shaking the cavern walls. "The choir's heart," Elira whispered, voice reverent and horrified. Kaelen's body buckled. Mika caught him, screaming his name. His veins surged so violently they split skin, black ichor dripping onto the stone. The song roared. The zealots answered, swarming the cavern's rim, their hymns piercing, endless. Kaelen lifted his head, eyes burning white-black. He rasped a laugh through blood. "Guess this is the stage." They staggered to the edge, the heart looming before them. Mika clutched the vial at her chest, trembling. Elira stood ready, gun shaking in her grip. Kaelen raised his pipe, barely able to keep it aloft. The choir sang, the heart pulsed, and the wastes themselves seemed to bow inward. The final act had begun. Chapter 13. The Heart. The choir's cavern pulsed like a throat, the song booming so loud the stone shook underfoot. The heart hung above the abyss, black and radiant, every beat a hammer. The zealots lined the rim, dozens, maybe hundreds, their mouths split open in perfect unison. They didn't rush forward. They only sang, as if the presence of the three intruders was already decided, already consumed. Kaelen staggered at the edge, veins blazing like molten chains beneath his skin. His pipe clattered from his hand, useless. He clutched his chest as if the heart itself was beating inside him. Mika knelt beside him, clutching his face. "Stay with me, please, Kael. Don't let it take you." He smiled through blood. "Already has." Elira stood above them both, pistol leveled at the nearest zealot, jaw locked tight. But her hand trembled, not from fear, fatigue. She'd spent every bullet she could spare, only a few rounds clinked in the chamber. The zealot stepped forward, not charging but closing the circle, chanting louder. The song pressed inside Mika's skull until she thought it might split. The vial at her neck burned against her skin. The heart spoke, not with words but with rhythm. Every beat thudded through her ribs, every pulse shaping a thought. Surrender. The waste belonged to the choir. You are already inside us. Your veins are our veins. Let him bleed into the song. Mika screamed, clutching her head. Kaelen jerked, coughing black ichor, his voice layered with the song, deep and alien. It wants me. No. She clung to him, shaking. It doesn't get you. Elira snapped, voice sharp enough to cut the hymn. Then give him the vial, Mika, now. The world narrowed. The zealots chanted. The heart thundered. Kaelen's body convulsed, splitting veins across his arms, chest, throat. His eyes flickered between white and black. He was becoming the song. Mika yanked the vial free, hands trembling. The liquid inside glowed faintly silver, pure against the black. The last drop of clean marrow, the only thing that could burn the choir's corruption away. Her breath hitched. If I give this to him... Elira's eyes locked on hers. He lives. Maybe. But you'll never reach the heart without it. Without him, we die. With him, maybe we stand a chance. Kaelen groaned, lips moving around words half his, half the choir's. Don't waste it. Not on me. Mika's chest split with panic. Her hand shook over the vial. Save Kaelen, or save the world. The zealots surged. Mika made her choice. She snapped the vial open and pressed it to Kaelen's lips. Silver light poured into him like fire. His body arched, every vein glowing white, as the black ichor screamed out of him, evaporating in bursts of smoke. He roared, the sound tearing his throat raw, and for a moment Mika thought she'd killed him. Then he stood. Not whole, but burning. His veins blazed with white fire now, black threaded within, fighting, writhing. He picked up the pipe and swung it once, cracking the stone floor with force that wasn't entirely his own. The zealots faltered. The song shuddered. Kaelen turned his head to Mika, his grin feral. Let's end it. They fought like dying stars. Elira shot until her gun clicked empty, then drew her blade, slashing at zealots that climbed over one another to reach her. Mika wielded nothing but her voice, screaming Kaelen's name over the song, anchoring him each time he threatened to slip into madness. Kaelen was fury incarnate. He tore through zealots with swings that shattered bone, bursts of white-black fire exploding from every wound. Each strike drained him, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The choir's heart thundered louder, faster, panicked. Cracks spread along its surface, spilling black ichor like blood. The zealots shrieked in pain, their hymn faltering. Mika screamed, "Now, Kael, the heart!" He charged. The pipe slammed into the heart with a sound like worlds colliding. Cracks split wider, veins of white fire crawling through its flesh. The song wailed, shaking the cavern apart. Zealots collapsed, convulsing, their hymns unraveling into silence. Kaelen struck again and again until the heart burst. Black ichor flooded the cavern, spilling into the abyss. The song cut off mid-note, leaving only silence. The heart was dead. Silence. The zealots were gone, swallowed into ash. The cavern groaned, stone trembling as if relieved. The air felt lighter, thinner, as if a weight had lifted from the wastes. Kaelen collapsed to his knees, the pipe clattering away. His veins dimmed, flickering between black and silver, neither winning. His eyes found Mika's, soft and broken. Told you not to waste it. Mika sobbed, cradling him against her. I couldn't let you go. Elira stood over them, staring at the broken heart. For the first time in years, her shoulders slumped. It's done, she said quietly. The choir's finished. But her voice held no triumph. Outside the cavern, the waste stretched endless still. No choir, no song, just silence. But silence wasn't peace. Kaelen's veins still pulsed with corruption, white and black warring in his blood. The wastes were quieter, yes, but something lingered, humming faintly beneath the ash like the earth was waiting for the next verse. Mika held him tighter, whispering, We'll find a way to fix this. We'll keep going. Elira looked at her, then at the horizon, her jaw set. Then we'd better move, because if the heart was only one voice... She didn't finish, because they all heard it. A faint hum, far, far away. Not silence. Not yet.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, stay safe.